Hello and welcome to the Universal Tax Calculator video walkthrough. My name is Bradley Martin and I'm the lead programmer of this software. In this video I hope to teach you how to navigate through the program. For starters, this is the main menu that appears as soon as you launch the program. It shows you obviously Universal Tax Calculator subtitle as well as the 4 different calculators available: Australia, France, New Zealand and the USA. There's also a languages option up here, which we'll take a look in a sec, but also we have an exit button. If on this screen that we are currently, it will immediately close the program. But if you're on something like the languages menu, then it will just take you back to this screen. Anyway, let's check out languages first. As you can see here, we have 4 different language options: English, Japanese, French, and Russian. And as you can tell, it changes the text to that respective language. And it even does it for the other modules. As you can see here, if we click into Australia, we have Japanese text. But for the sake of understanding, we're just going to stick to English for today. Anyway, let's begin with the Australia Tax Calculator. So here we are on the Australia Tax Calculator. As you can see, we have 4 main options to choose from, them being Calculate Taxable Income, Calculate Tax, Update Tax Brackets, and Calculate Medicare Levy. We also have the exit button here again, where if you click it while on the screen, it will take you back to the Universal Tax Calculator main menu. If you're on any of the screens that are accessed from these buttons, it will just take you back to this menu. Let's start off with Calculate Taxable Income. As you can probably tell, you can calculate your taxable income from your pay rate, whether it's your daily, weekly, fortnightly, or monthly, and any tax deductions will be subtracted off of it. Let's do a weekly of $567 with deductions of $2,240. Our taxable income will be $27,244. We can clear it, start over again, but we can also just go to Calculate Tax and do it right away, as the value is stored here in taxable income, as well as over here in the Medicare levy. So if we're going to calculate our tax according to the current bracket, it will be $1,718.36. Now you can also change the brackets, whether you have to update it to a new one, or if you want to go from a previous bracket, you can go choose from any of these, changes the values. You can also write them down yourself. And then we can also just go to Calculate Medicare Levy and just calculate from the current rate, which is 2%, can be changed if you would like. Our Medicare levy would be $544.88. Clear it, start over, same as before. Otherwise, that's the Australia Tax Calculator. Let us move over to the France Tax Calculator. So here we are on the France Tax Calculator menu. It's the same layout as the previous one and sort of the same rules apply, but there are some differences, like how it's called Calculate Gross Income instead of Calculate Taxable Income. That's because in France it's called gross and not taxable. Obviously the tax brackets are different, but more so France because they actually have an extra one that's added onto your normal tax if you're a high earning person, like a surcharge where it's above 250 grand. Let me show you what I mean. So let's say I earn $325,900. I have to pay that much in tax. That's because it's both the normal tax and the surcharge combined. It's quite interesting. We also have calculate social contributions instead of Medicare levy. So you use your gross income and you get charged with 2 different rates, CSG and CRDS. And you have to pay those combined $31,612.30. These that's what you have to pay if you have this taxable income, and you can change the rate. So that's the France tax calculator. Let's move on to the New Zealand tax calculator. So here we are on the New Zealand tax calculator. Same rules apply from before. It's once again called taxable income. Bracket in New Zealand is much smaller. I didn't mention it before also, but only Australia calculates tax timesing it by cents. Everywhere else does it percentages, so that includes France, New Zealand, and USA. that we do it in percentages. But it's all of the same principle though. It's just Australia does it in cents, this country does it in percentages. But also we have calculate GST over here, where you can actually calculate the goods and services tax you owe. So if you made purchases of $45 and the GST rate, which is the 15%, which is the current rate, then your rate is $6.75. That's how much you got to pay. So same rules apply where you can actually change it in that. So if you want to go Australia, that's 10%, 45, $4.50 for your rate. But yep, that's the New Zealand tax calculator. Now on to the final one, which is the United States of America. So here we are on the final menu, the United States of America tax calculator. Same layout designs and rules apply. We also have like extra brackets, bonuses, and ranges that need to be calculated. Different presets. And then over here we have calculate FBT rate, where you can calculate your fringe benefits tax rate. So say you had a taxable income of $100,000 and you've paid fringe benefits of $25,000, then your tax rate will be 25%. Again, you could obviously change everything as I just shown, but that's the United States of America tax calculator. Let's head back to the main menu. So that was the Universal Tax Calculator program in its entirety. Now I'm going to show you the code on how it works. So now I'm going to show you the code of the program, and I'm going to show you just specifically three of the code modules. So Form 1, which is main menu, I've tried changing the name, but it still sticks to Form 1, don't know why. Mod languages, which is the language code, very simple, and Tax Australia. And I'm doing Tax Australia specifically because like once you've seen one, you've seen all of them, and this one's the first one I started with. And I've put the main comments in. So let's just start up with Form 1 of the main menu. So upon activation, the language integers are set. So language equals 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I set English as the default language. Each of these submodules allow the respective program to open their respective tax calculators by clicking on flags. Like if you click pick box Australia, the Australian flag, it instantly loads up the Australia tax calculator and so on and so forth. Same goes to here, where actually if you click the labels, it does the same. You can open up Tax France by clicking on the label rather than the picture. Over here we have the beginning of the buttons. So buttons for languages. And so if you click on button English, obviously instantly sets the language to English and changes the text to all be the English translations. Also have it where I move the title text, LBL, AUS, and like all that. So to the left, well, like left it means just the horizontal where it's going to be. And I move it because I want to keep it center underneath the pictures and center as the title. So I do it with this menu. That's what all that's about. So here's one for Japanese, translate all the text, moves the labels along. Same here for French, and same here for Russian. Now, there's a language globe button as you will have seen in the video, and once clicked obviously it makes everything visible that was on just the normal screen. Makes everything invisible that isn't like the buttons of English. Keeps exit on so you can still access that. It also changes the title and moves it around, to like say the word languages rather than creating a separate label for that. This button exit does its thing. When it recognizes that if it says languages or it's translations, then it will just take you back to the previous one by making all the pick boxes true, changing the title as you can see here, and then like making the language buttons invisible. But like it also recognizes that if it isn't on any of these, like else, it just closes the program because it means you want to exit the program. So that's the Form 1, that's the main menu. Mod languages over here, it's just simple. It's just essentially defining all of these as integers. Very easy. So, and also like the way it works, this as making it like its own module, making it public and stating that public, or making them a global variable in Visual Basic so it can be accessed by the other modules. Like here, scroll to the top. So here we're defining in just the public class of Tax Australia, nowhere else, just Tax Australia on its own. There's iPayRate and iDeduct, which is declaring them as decimals. So is TaxInc and TaxInc2. Tax on its own, which is where we obviously this data is stored for tax. Ranges 1 through 4, which we'll get to in a minute, which is like tax bracket ranges. Cents, which is otherwise the percentages, but those are for the tax brackets, and same for bonuses. We'll get more into those in a minute. And then we have medlev rate and medlev. Medlev rate for the rate, obviously, and medlev is like what's going to be printed out. So starters on load, when it loads up, it instantly sets these as the values of the respective ranges and cents, and then also displays them in their text boxes. So text box R1 equals range 1, and so on and so forth. Also instantly sets medlev to 2, medlev rate to 2. When button tax is clicked, and then obviously if it's any of these languages, then most of these, the buttons are rendered false, and all the respective stuff that needs to be opened by LBL pay rate is, made visible. And button calcu, because it's used a bit, is moved around. It's used in other modules of this module. Submodules, there we go. Button tax does the same thing. Button update does its thing. Also one more thing with button tax. So I can have it where if you already calculate the taxable income in the taxable income, and it actually sends that text over to the text box used in button tax instantly. It does it just with this code, and also formats it to, but like it always recognizes if it's 0.00, it does not equal that. Again, here it does the same thing, and also this is how the text is copied over to medlev to calculate Medicare levy ready, so you can just do it rather than retype it. Button exit, same as before, so like simulates going back, but this time simulates going back to just all the buttons for each of the submodules. So it changes the text back and just makes those buttons visible. Everything else is invisible, but if like you're on that menu already, it just closes that program and takes you back to Universal Tax Calculator. Simple as that. These following ones, these are the radio buttons used for the button taxable income. So when you want to calculate your pay rate, you have to actually click on which specific pay rate you want. So it's daily, and like it enables the text box so you can type in. Over here we have calculate tax. This is button calcu. Yeah, here we go. This is where the real meat's at. So for starters, this is how it calculates the taxable income. So when like the respective radio button is checked, it multiplies the pay rate by a specific thing, and you're allowed to obviously type in the pay rate and text box pay rate, so it's like resetting the value to what's supposed to be. If you have any deductions that you put in the deductions text box, it's subtracted from pay rates, and also have it where it's formatted to 0.00 so it can be the 2 decimal place. That's how it actually works. So I figured it out. I learned. Over here we have calculate tax, and now before we begin, I just want to quickly show you, just to have an idea how this works. Look at the current tax bracket here in Australia. So here on the Australian tax bracket, we have the ranges on the side, then tax, which is the cents times each over the range, and the bonuses. Now the ranges 1 through 4, obviously 18,200, 37,000, 90,000, 180,000. The cents are obviously 19, 32.5, 37, 45. The bonuses, the first one's obviously 3,572, but the second is actually 17,225, and that's because is the previous bracket added on to the tax calculator on that one. So it's actually 17,225 plus 3,572. The same rule applies for the third bonus when actuality is 33,300 instead of 54,097 because it's 20,797 plus 33,300. Now that we know that, let's have a look at the code again. So tax inc is obviously the taxable income that's added in. If it's less than range 1, which was, as we remember, is 18,200, then the tax is instantly 0. Else if the tax inc is greater than range 1, so if it's 18,201, but less than range 2, less than or equal to range 2, so 37,000, then tax would equal taxable inc minus 18,200 times 19 cents, I think it was. Yeah, 19 cents. Else if, and like if it actually turns out to be not that, if it's really tax inc is greater than range 2, so greater than 37,000, but less than or equal to range 3 or 90,000, then that's when we start adding the bonus. So the bonus is from the previous tax bracket, what was calculated tax, added on to tax inc minus range 2 multiplied by cents 2. And then that one is also added on here, and so on and so forth, till eventually it figures out what your tax is and formats it in the decimal place. Over here we have calculate Medicare levy, where medlev is what's presented, but medlev rate is obviously the rate you type in. So if you type in 2, then it's divided by 100 to be in its decimal form, so it's like it's a percentage, times that by tax inc 2, which is the second taxable income that you can input in. I decided to have them as separate because it started glitching out a bit when I was having both as the same one. It was a bit odd. Anyway, yeah, and it's obviously presented and formatted in decimal place. Button clear, so I have it also where on its own for the button for the calculate taxable income variables, they don't have an if statement because I just felt like they were pretty easy on their own, but because if it's on like a separate screen, then one of these two screens which have a lot of things to it, and if you clear it, it sort of stuffs things up, I found. So I had it where tax inc obviously set to 0, but I have it displayed in text as 0.00, so it's still in decimal place like how cash is usually represented. Over here is RBP1, so preset 1, one of the previous tax bracket presets that you can choose from, or in case of this one, the current. So it instantly changes the text of the bracket ranges, bonuses, and cents. But as we already know, not only does it change the text, but when the text changes, so does their respective variables. Yeah, their respective variables and data. Yeah. So if range 1.text is changed, then range 1 changes alongside it. So there's like the other presets. Obviously over here you have if text like. Oh yeah, if I have it where to avoid a glitch, if text box payrate.text equals blank, so if the whole text box is cleared, then it instantly puts a 0 down, otherwise the system would crash. Over here with this whole if e key char is less than 0, greater than 9, this whole thing is essentially letting you is like the program's way of detecting that you've typed in a number. And it only allows you to type in numbers, and you can't type in letters, because then it would just not work properly obviously it's a decimal data type. You can't put in a letter. So that's its way of figuring it out. You can only put in numbers. Obviously here where id duck equals textbox.tduck.text. Get the idea. Over here, if the text box in tax inc 3, which is the one used for the Medicare levy, if the one used in the calculate tax, like the text box of taxable income, is changed, Then also changes the text in the Medicare levy one, so again, you don't have to retype it. It changes alongside it, but it doesn't change the one that was calculated in the calculate taxable income, because then it'd just be a false number. But yeah, if you ever happen to change it, I want to go strictly to the Medicare levy and fix that, then go good. It just does it for you. Here it does more of a key chart thing, fixing it, and recognizing how it works, assigning the data type, clearing it, adding the zero, all that. Down here, the final bit is where upon activation, if the language is recognized as a certain language, so if language is English, then it translates all the text into their respective language, and it does it for every single one of them. The reason why there's a space here, like between some of them, is because if they're all together, it's sort of it's so that they're not all strung apart in one line, which then overlaps into other text and other variables, other bits in the layout. So this fixes it and just goes down, and I put it and I space it out so that it will not interfere with other objects. It took a while, and yeah, that's the Tax Australia. Now again, it's very similar to all the other ones. They're all practically the same, just they have a few little differences, like the way tax is calculated in France. They have the extra surcharge that's added onto the normal tax, but still displayed in Calc.text2. And USA, they have it where there's two things. It's fringe benefits and purchases, and it's taxable income divided by fringe benefits, which equals a percentage rate. So sort of similar, but also they're all very similar to each other, even though they have small differences. But yep, that's Universal Tax Calculator. That's both the video walkthrough and the code walkthrough. Wish you all the best of luck with the program. Have a good day.